Hi everyone, welcome to another BricksMembers tutorial. Today it's about progress tracking. I will show you exactly how it works. So I would say without further ado, let's get right into it. Setting progress tracking up in the backend is actually quite easy. You don't actually have much to do here. And that's the only thing really. You have to turn it on. Like on the modules here on the settings page, you go to progress tracking and then you simply turn that module on. And you will notice that there is no page coming up because there's actually only one thing that you have to do in the WordPress backend, and that is here under content structures, the content structures page. If you go on that, a field that's now available when you activate the progress tracking module is that progress tracking level here under create new content structure. And it's also available in existing structures, so you can change it at any time if you want to. And what it does is it tells BricksMembers on what structure level it should track the progress. Like usually that's a lesson here. Like you see here in that structure, we're having a 4-level one, course, module, lesson, video. And there I want to track the progress based on how many lessons are completed. That's important to set up. If you don't set that up, progress tracking will not work at all, because it just doesn't know what to track the progress of. Like in order to track progress, you want to have a percentage, and in order to calculate a percentage number, you have to have a total number of lessons, for example, and you need to know how many lessons have been completed within a certain course, within a certain module or so. And by telling BricksMembers on what structure level you want to track the progress, it knows that. That is unique to BricksMembers because there we have this content structures feature here where you can create your own content structures as deep as 6 levels and also as many structures as you want. And then it looks like that here. You have this structure UI here where you can create your courses or whatever structured content you want. Then of course you need to tell it like on what level of the structure it has to track the progress. Otherwise, it would simply not work. We cannot simply detect on what level it likely should be. Usually, like it's either lesson or it's maybe the lowest level or so. So yeah, that's the first point here. You have to set that up. And after that, you don't have to do anything anymore in the WordPress admin backend. The rest happens completely either behind the scenes and for you in Bricks Builder. So let's go in there. I have a lesson template here. So because I set the tracking level to lesson, I can now set on that lesson template here a progress checkbox. And this progress checkbox element, this is a key, at least currently, for progress tracking, because currently, at least in the current BricksMembers version, this is the only way for a student to tell you that he finished a lesson or whatever post type you set up. Now, in the future, I will also add to that the option to do it automatically when he finished watching a video or a certain percentage of a video, but this will likely come next month in April. This feature is not available yet by this time. This is why I only check you that. So if you're curious about how that works, then just check either on this YouTube channel or in the documentation for the video integration, how that works. Again, it's not available yet, but in the future you will see that here on this YouTube channel or in the documentation how that exactly works. So currently I can't show you anything here, so we're focusing entirely on the checkbox. But yeah, this is important because the moment a student checks off this checkbox or in the future also finishes watching a certain percentage of a video, then the lesson will automatically be marked as completed, and also in the background it will compute all the percentages. It's like we are having this progress bar here on top, for example, and there you see it currently has 25%, and this number 25% is actually not computed on the fly. This is in the database, and actually we're not computing that at all. We're just writing the total number of lessons or posts of that tracking post type into the database and how many are completed, and the database calculates the 25% here automatically because that saves us more processing power. That's like one of the many performance enhancements from BricksMembers. So this happens all in the background, like it calculates the number directly and it's just being displayed here. And so that's why this progress checkbox element here is actually really important. Without that, at least currently, you can't use progress tracking. Again, in the future with the video stuff that will come. Anyway, let's get into that checkbox element here. So you see exactly how it works. You have like tons of options here actually. And at first it is that by standard, as you can see, this comes as a check mark element and not as a button. So when you drag that into Bricks Builder here, then you will at first just see the checkbox, but I personally prefer a button. That's why I usually use that. But yeah, if you want a checkbox, then just leave it as it is. You also find checkbox styles here, all sorts of stuff. So you can style it however you want. However, I personally prefer a button as mentioned, and then it also switches to button style here. And there's at first one thing I want to show you. We at first, of course, support all the primary, secondary, etc. stuff natively from Bricks Builder for the button styles, but also automatic CSS. You can just click that here. And then when you select the primary CSS buttons, the automatic CSS button style here, and also the size, then it automatically applies the correct automatic CSS utility classes to that button. So it integrates perfectly and easily into your automatic CSS system. It's pretty cool. Anyway, let's get back to content. Then you can also show some other stuff here, like completion date, for example. Like here, it would now show that. Oh, by the way, we're having another checkbox here. Yeah. So there's a completion date. You can also show status messages. Like you can't see that now. But let's have a quick look here in the front end, how that would look like. So when I click that now, you see completed, and then it disappears again. And you also have the structural controls here. So when you turn that on, you find this item here. And you will likely never ever use that. It's also more for when it's displayed as a checkbox. And what that essentially does is these are like all the standard styles that it needs to have some basic styling. And I don't want to load an extra CSS file for that. That's why I use kind of hidden controls here that are usually hidden to inject that CSS into the native Bricks Builder CSS system. But I give you access to those controls here because maybe in some rare cases you might need that, maybe to assign or adjust the transition here a little bit for the check mark or some spacings or so. So you can do that all here as well, but this is all for styling. So let's use a button again. Then you also have labels here available if you want to change them. Button style, we had that already. The messages that are being displayed under the text if you have status messages turned on. And then also a processing indicator. Let me just save that here and show you that. So look at the right side of that button now. What happens when I click him? There you saw there was a little status indicator, like a little spinner there. And that is important because sometimes maybe some computations take a bit longer when it comes to calculating the progress. And that's why the spinner is there, so that you don't get the idea of quickly leaving the page or so in case it takes a bit longer. I think it's really rare that it takes so long that you would actually leave the page or so, because you saw right now how quick that is, it's milliseconds. So even if it takes 1 or 2 seconds in some really, really bad hosting, so when you have really like, I don't know, hundreds, thousands of users or so, then even then it will still be fast enough. So I wouldn't worry, but I think it's just good to have that spinner there. And of course, if you don't want that, you can also just turn it off. Or what you can also do is you can replace it with checkbox/button text. Let me show you that as well. Like you can define a text here. In that case, it's processing. Let's reload it. And now you see the button quickly switches to processing instead of showing a spinner. So this is, for example, how Circle also handles that. You can do it however you want. And next, this is a bit more interesting. We have events here, and this is a bit more complicated. So options that you see here is the action it should take after a drip unlock. This only appears there, of course, if the drip module is activated. And that is that in the drip module, in the drip functionality, you can also set rules where a post only becomes unlocked when the previous post or so, another post, is being completed from the progress tracking module. So drip module and progress tracking module, they work together to a certain degree. Of course, drip rules can also include time-based drip unlocks, but you can also use the prerequisites here with those progress tracking checkboxes. This is why you see that after drip unlock here. And so this is an action that it should take after a next post or so got unlocked. So here you can, for example, select update matched wrappers or reload page with position. Now, why is that? It sounds a bit complicated, like you probably don't know what that means. It basically means that, for example, when a next post gets unlocked, you might want to give the user a button to go to that next post or so. In order for that, of course, you will somehow have to update the page. So you can select here either by reloading page with position. With position means that you can here select scroll to element or restore exact scroll position. The first one, of course, means that the JavaScript essentially captures the current position of the page, and then after reload, it will automatically scroll back to that position. Or what you can also do is you can select scroll to element, and then you can simply put in a target selector here, like a point highlight or an ID or so of an element, and it will automatically scroll to that element, just as if you would do with a one-page navigation or so. And that's useful. So, for example, if you have a lot of content that updates in a certain part of the website or page, and you want to update that, then it would simply just scroll to that place, like the button or so, directly. And yeah, that's a really easy implementation because it just reloads the whole page. But what's a bit more efficient and what's actually pretty cool, that's even possible, that is the update matched wrappers. So how that works here is you give it also a CSS selector. So in that case here, this drip refresh selector and a Bricks element ID. So I show you that here, how that works. Like I have this element here, the unlock wrapper. And in this unlock wrapper, there I have a basic text. And now you see this unlock wrapper. When I look at the element ID here in Bricks Builder, you see it's JHMIHG. And this is the exact ID that I put in here. That's important because the logic has to know what element to re-render, because the re-rendering actually happens not on the front-end JavaScript side, but in the back-end via Ajax, and there it has to know the actual element ID. We cannot use a CSS selector there. That's why this is mandatory here, that has to be in there, otherwise the functionality doesn't work. And then the drip selector is for the actual CSS. Now, you could also use this complete ID here that Bricks gives you, but it doesn't always apply this ID. It only applies it when you actually use it for styling, and it's important. That's why we're not like just using the ID all the time. We also give you the option to use a CSS class or whatever you want. And now you can also see that here, like in the unlock wrapper, I gave it the class drip refresh. You can of course also do that here in case you don't want to have that class into your class system. It's totally fine, doesn't matter. And so what that does is that now it will target this element, and then it will only refresh this part. So let me show you that. Just refresh the page. Now you see mark is complete. And now if you look in here, the moment I press complete, it now unlocked the post. And now because the next post is unlocked, it just showed me this element here. And as you can see, this is the unlock wrapper. And here's the basic text. Now, how that works is it doesn't like hide that automatically for you. I have this text hidden here via condition drip next post scope top level unlocked. So it only, like, this text only shows up when the next post within the top level, so the course, is unlocked. If you remember from other tutorials, top level here, that always means the highest level in your content structure. Like if you hover here, you see top. So these are courses here also. Top level is always courses, and then level 2, for example, is module. Level 3 is lesson, for example, here, and level 4 video. This is how it works. So that's why I select scope top level here and then unlocked. So this text only shows up when the next post is unlocked based on drip. And this is important to remember here, like you can use conditional logic within that wrapper. Like this wrapper element is important to have the class and to also select the Bricks element ID from that wrapper and not from the actual element that you assign the conditional logic to, because otherwise it simply could not render this element. So if I uncomplete this post again and I look into the DOM of it, then you have to have a quick look. There you see the element drip refresh and it's empty. And this is important that we have this element here, because otherwise the JavaScript in that case would not know what element to target, because you also see like there is no Bricks ID or so. So it would simply not know what to target. This is why you always have to have a wrapper element that you take the Bricks ID off and also give it a CSS class or a CSS ID, and then put that into the checkbox element here. Otherwise it will simply not work. Because if I would do that directly with that text element here, then the text element would not be in the DOM, and therefore the JavaScript could not find the element and update it with the new content. So yeah, this is how it works. Like you always have a wrapper element that will re-render. This wrapper element, you need the Bricks ID and some sort of CSS class or CSS ID. You put those things here into the matching fields. And that's basically it. Like you have some more options here, like scroll to element. Like you notice, for example, when I complete it, it automatically scrolls to the element. It's a bit, that's useful, so a user will directly notice that something new has happened there. And then you can also select if you want to highlight the element or not. And if yes, then you have all sorts of options here for highlighting. I currently use Shine here. This is, let me show you that again. Like this little shiny that runs through. So just to make it a bit more noticeable for the user, right? So you can select between all sorts of styles here and style them accordingly, however you want. And then we also have the kind of same functionality for just when a user completed a lesson, because maybe you don't have drip unlocked or so, but you still want to update some elements on the page dynamically when a certain lesson is completed. Let me just turn that after drip stuff off now to make everything a bit cleaner here. So what you see, for example, here is also after progress change, update matched wrappers with Ajax. So you also have here CSS selector and the Bricks element ID. This is exactly the same functionality as it was before here with the, with the after drip unlocked. So no difference there. You just give it a CSS ID or class and a Bricks element ID, and it will refresh the element whenever that checkbox here is pressed, even if there was no drip unlock or so happening. You also have scroll to element and highlight element, etc. Anyway, there's one difference when it comes to refreshing only because a progress checkbox has been activated or deactivated, and that is that you have this option here, which says refresh progress bars, and when you turn that on, it will automatically detect all progress bars that you have on that page, like only the progress bar element, which you also find here under BricksMembers, like here, BRM progress bar. And so if you look now at the progress bar, when I mark this lesson as complete, you see nothing happens right now. Oh yeah, I think I didn't save, that's why it didn't. Let's just reload that. Okay, it's 27% now. So now it goes back to 25%, goes back to 27, 25. So that also now updates on the fly. So that's quite useful. You don't even need to provide any Bricks builder element ID or something like that. It will automatically detect the progress bars and update them. So that's quite useful. Anyway, if you also, let's say you have some custom progress bars, or you show the percentage of progress or anything else regarding to progress somewhere on the page and you want to refresh that, then you would also have to use either this update matched wrappers feature here with a CSS selector and Bricks element IDs, or you would also have to select reload page with position and then do your settings here so that it automatically jumps to that position. So much about the refresh functionality. I know it's a bit complicated, but you will get into it quickly, and it's actually like it fascinates me that that's possible. Because before I actually started looking into this feature, I couldn't even imagine that it actually works, that we can actually partially refresh this page. And I think that makes it quite nice actually from a user experience perspective. Anyway, there are also a few more options here. So for example, after clicking the checkbox, you can also decide what's happening, for example, on 100% completion redirect. So for example, if let's say 100% of that course would be completed, maybe you want the user to land on another page. Like maybe we're on a lesson page right now and you want to redirect him on the course page and then show him a big message there like, hey, you made it or something like that. Or you even want him to go to a completely independent page to show a success message or so. You can totally do that here. Like you have the option reload page, go to parent post, internal post page, or custom URL. I think, yeah, in an updated version, it just comes into my mind, I will also do a partially refresh here so that after 100% complete, you could also just show a message appearing right on the page without having to refresh or redirect or anything. So we could actually extend that partial refresh feature also to 100% completion. Yeah, that will come in a future version definitely. And you also find two more settings boxes here if you checked anything else than no redirect. So here in that case here, for example, I could select parent level because I selected go to parent post. So if I select that and then I select top level, that would automatically mean that it redirects me to the course page, because the course page would be the top level post. Like if we're here in the courses here, I'm in the DaVinci Resolve course, I'm on a lesson there, and let's say I just completed the last lesson, the course is 100%, then it would jump to the actual course page here, like the course post automatically. And this is quite nice because it makes it dynamic in that template, because you see here I have 10 courses and I don't want to have a template for every individual course, right? But I want the template to know where it should go at 100% completion, and that's then always just a top level post of the current course we're in. So you just select top level here and it will jump there. Of course, if you select now something else like internal post or page, then of course it changes here and you can select the actual page and stuff. And you also have reload page, of course, and nothing displays there. And then you also have check completion for, because maybe you want to show something at like 100% of a current module, then you would select level 2 here, or you generally want to select parent level. But in that case, of course, I want to track the progress here per course, so I select top level here. So if 100% of the course is completed, then it will redirect to that top level page here. So most of the time you will select top level here, but in some rare cases, maybe you also want to redirect if like 100% of the module is completed or so. So you can do that here as well. And yeah, a super important element to understand. And now after setting this element up, the checkbox, then you can come to the rest, which is to like display the progress percentage or so, or other progress related stuff. And of course also use conditional logic or query loop filters or so. So let's go through those. At first here, you see what I already mentioned. We have the progress bar element. This is super straightforward. Like you drag that into your builder, then you have all your settings here. Like you can select like what progress percentage it should show. Like it can, for example, again, like show top level for the course, or I could also show level 2 here. Then it would show it for the module. Like here, for example, it should show 0%, I think. Yeah, 0% because I'm on the first post and the post is not completed. So it shows 0% for the module. If I complete the post now and reload the page because I don't have the automatic refresh on, then it shows 13%, for example. So this would now be 0 or 13% for the module. But of course, usually you want to show per course, so you select top level here. And of course, you can also just select like parent level, and it would show always the level above the current post. But well, that would be module in that case because we're on level 3 lessons, so parent level doesn't really make sense here. And when you're on a course page, for example, or so, then you can also select current level here, or you can also show the progress for the whole content structure by selecting structure. And yeah, so more options, progress tracks, progress details. Here it shows you 16 of 63 completed, for example. You can also display that. Then you can style the progress bar, of course, as you like. You can also use a fill gradient in case you want the progress bar to use a gradient. And then, of course, you can also style the progress text. So all the styles here are available that you need, but that's only one way to use the progress. We also have all sorts of progress dynamic tags here, and BRM progress completed just gives a 1 or 0 depending on if it's completed or not. But this can also be extended. So if you scroll down a bit, you find more examples here. So I think percent structure, etc. should be clear. But then you have, for example, progress completed structure. There it shows the structure completed count. You could also use top level. That would give you the completed count of top level posts. Like you remember here, when I activated the progress details, it shows 16 of 68. 63. So the total amount would be 63 and the completed amount is 16. So this dynamic tag here, progress completed top level, would give you the 16 here because 16 posts are completed within that course top level. And also BRM total top level would then give you 63 because we have a total of 63 lessons within that top level post, which is the course. And anything else to show here? And yeah, the rest is progress. I think progress percentage should be self-explanatory. Like you just tell it what to base the percentage on. Like, is it the top level, the course, or the module, or so on? We had that already before, all with that stuff here in the progress tracking level. It's the exact same when it comes to dynamic tags. And then you can also show the completion date with BRM progress completion date. And another really interesting functionality is BRM progress continue. You can also modify that with URL, title, or post ID. And what that does is it gives you the last uncompleted post. So the next post after the last completed one. That's, for example, useful here if you have a courses list. You see here I have buttons that simply say continue. And when I click on one, like for example, when I click here on in the DaVinci Resolve course on continue, then you can see that it directly leads me again to the basic editing lesson here, because that is the last lesson that is not completed. So this is quite useful here. And as you can see, I built that in Bricks Builder by simply using a normal button element, nothing from BricksMembers or so. And just under link, I put in the dynamic tag BRM progress continue top level URL. So it puts the right URL into the continue button, and then it directly works. And that is built here via a query loop. This little course overview here, you see like query loop. So this dynamic tag also, like everything in BricksMembers, also works in a query loop context. So you can perfectly use that here for such listings or so. So yeah, these are all the dynamic tags, but we also have conditional logic, of course, for progress tracking in Bricks Builder. So for example, if I go to my little text element here and I go to conditional logic, let's just add a new one here. And when I scroll down on BricksMembers, then you see here, where is it? Yeah, we have progress. And there under progress, you can select is completed or not completed. So you can show content only if the current post is completed or not. And of course, that also works in query loops. So inside a listing of certain posts or so, you can also select if, like to show something only if a post is completed or not. And also, when you run actual query loops, we have the progress filter, and there you can select to only show completed posts or not completed posts. So it's essentially the same as conditional logic, just for query loops, so you can directly only show posts only based on their progress state. So there's actually a lot you can do and customize on your pages when it comes to progress tracking with BricksMembers, just because we give you so many options here with all the dynamic tags, etc. And also progress tracking is also a foundation for some future functionalities. For example, now in version 0.98, I will also introduce the certificates functionality. And for example, you will be able to set it up so that certificates or a certain certificate only shows up after completing a certain amount of a course, like usually 100% of course, but who knows, maybe you want to already give some sort of certificate after 80% or something like that for whatever reason, then you will also be able to do that. So that's why like progress tracking is actually an important module, not just for the progress itself, but also for upcoming features in BricksMembers. So it's actually a really useful feature. And yeah, that's for now at least everything that you need to know about progress tracking. Whenever new features are released or so that rely on progress tracking, at least partly, then of course you should watch those tutorials or simply read the documentation about those features, whatever you need, and you will learn it there. And yeah, so that's everything for this tutorial. If you want to learn more about BricksMembers and also about building membership sites with WordPress and Bricks Builder, then consider subscribing. And also, if you're curious about how this content structures feature works, which is essential for progress tracking, then check out this video here in the corner, and there you will learn more. And if you have any further questions, then feel free to leave a comment below. I will answer as soon as possible, usually within 24 hours. And also feel free to join our BricksMembers Facebook group. There you can also ask questions at any time. So yeah, I'm out, and I hope to see you in the next tutorial.